Hi, this is Blinky, broadcasting almost live from the Boscoyo Broadcast Studios. You're listening to the second season of the Professional Triers podcast.
Oh, yeah!
Remember to like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. And now here are your hosts, the Professional Triers.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Professional Triers. I'm JR, your host, with Brian. Nice shirt.
Hey, you like that? It's the blinky flash. You got to turn around, but it's too much work.
Today we have a special guest. We have Ryan Marshall and his dad, Andy. How you guys doing?
Great. How about you?
Pretty good.
We are good. Thanks for having us.
No problem. I know Ryan's probably one of the youngest guys in the XLights groups that actually does lights, but he also helps you out a lot too, right, Andy?
That's correct. Yeah, I got intrigued a few years ago to get a show together, and so I'm kind of the prop builder and the instigator, and he likes the programming and configuration side. So we work well together.
You guys still do a split show, don't you? You do LOR for Christmas and XLights for Halloween, or is it vice versa?
No, that's right. We did last year. 19 was the first year that Ryan put together a Halloween show with RGB, and typically in the past it's been all LOR for Christmas, and I'm going to add a couple of RGB props this year. We're still going to run it in LOR, but we're going to run a Falcon for the Megatree this year. We're going to do something different. So still kind of like the traditional, I'm still kind of traditional incandescent AC kind of guy, but thought maybe one of the elements in there we might kick it up a notch just to have a focal point in the yard, I suppose. So
very nice. All right, so we have some like regular introduction questions that we normally go through. And Ryan, since your dad's here, I guess he could answer the
Yep, go ahead.
That you don't have like a family or a job and stuff like that. So we'll just go through there. Why don't we start with Ryan first and like tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been doing the lights and stuff, and then we'll go into Andy answering the question, a little bit about himself and like his family, what he does for a living, stuff like that.
Sure. I'm 15 years old. I do theater lighting at my high school, and I don't participate in any sports. This is kind of my go-to thing when I get home after schoolwork. I like to do programming stuff on the side, and that's about it about me. Not a very interesting person, but
You do some cool stuff for your school, though. I've seen those videos online.
yeah, it's fun. When I can participate, I will.
Very cool. So what about you, Andy? Let's hear a little bit about yourself.
all right, my background is engineering major, but about a little over 20 years ago, I switched over into IT, and the rest is kind of history. So working with computers, I love music, and I love Christmas lights. So when this all kind of came along and realized that animating lighting Christmas lights to music was available, my head kind of exploded and started getting some ideas, and was originally really intrigued by Richard Holdman is where it kind of originated for me. I really liked the style, his dimming curves, his fading. It wasn't just a blinky, flashy show. It was a very well thought out, smooth, progressive show, and I just really took to it. And I think that I've always liked red, green, and white for Christmas, so it was kind of at that moment that I decided I really wanted to just run with that and get something similar. So I hate to say that I stole a lot of his ideas, but I kind of adapted his way to my own home, and he was a lot of my inspiration, and there's a few others out there that had the same inspiration as well. But I don't know, that's to Christmas to me, that hit me that hit closest to home for me for lighting. And I already had a kind of a static display with certain props or elements that were already there. So I basically just adapted them to the 3 colors. And yeah, and then one of the spring sales, I started hitting the Lore site and got a lot of stuff, DIY stuff, and build all my own controllers. And then of course got into the SPT1 extension cords, built all that, all my own harnesses, and it started with that initial notebook page drawing of what I wanted to do, and then kind of just started from there. And then things have progressed a bit, and last year we added some just some dumb RGB floods all around the base of the house, up in the gable ends of the house, and that added, I think, a lot of just washing out the house in certain sequences. Really added a lot to it, so I think we're going to do that again this year.
Right.
Add a little bit more to the show. So, but that's kind of where I've come from. But every year we add a little bit more. Last year was kind of a step back. We lost a weekend, so I didn't get as much setup as I would normally set up. But hopefully this year, with the extra time that we got on our hands, hopefully we can get a bigger and better show this year. So
Very nice. So, well, you got this next part here is our speed round, or flashpoint is what we call it now. This is the first time we ever had an LR display, so I don't even know what to ask. But
I've got it all written down here.
We could
well,
split it in half.
part.
You got it all written down? You ready to go, Ryan?
I threw the template in my own thing. I've got my whole note sheet ready to go. Just fire them at me.
So you're just going to name it all off. I'm not going to ask questions. I'm going to play the intro. As soon as it ends, just fire off everything in your display.
Once again, the Professional Triers Holiday Lighting Show has raised the bar, teaming up with another awesome sponsor, Zazzle, to provide you, our VIP listeners, with some cool, awesome, one-of-a-kind Professional Triers gear, including the Hot or Not shot glass, the Blinky Flashy Lowdown notebook, the Professional Triers Blinky Gear beer stein, the ever-so-popular David Peace Not a Vendor t-shirt, the must-have Robert Petty Make Rob Great Again t-shirt, the one-of-a-kind Jordan Nash
Do you like my decorations?
t-shirt, and of course the must-have Professional Triers Blinky t-shirt, and much, much more. You can even create your own one-of-a-kind Professional Triers gear. So go to trierswag.com, that's TRIERSSWAG.com, and get your Professional Triers gear today.
Hi, this is Blinky, and now it's time for our favorite segment, Flashpoint. As fast as you can, tell us all about the details of your display.
We have 14 Lightorama controllers, that is including Lightorama controllers and Falcon controllers. Software and scheduler we use is Lightorama S5. Our pixel and light count is 1900 pixels and 40,000 AC lights. We use 12 volt and 110 volt lights. The pigtail type we use is DIY and Lore connectors, and our other useful hardware is SPT cords.
Very good. Nice and prepared.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
Try to trip him up and have him do it half for Halloween, half for Christmas.
Oh God, I didn't even do I didn't even calculate the Halloween stuff either.
yeah, Halloween was kind of I don't know, a lot of people like Halloween as their primary, but Halloween is kind of an afterthought for us. Unfortunately, there's a lot of cool things we can do, but the problem of it is it's just too darn close to Christmas for me, because I need the whole month, including Halloween weekend or the closest weekend, to get Christmas going, and I have to get all the Halloween stuff down and put away. So I wish we had an in between there. So
that's why you got to go all pixels for Christmas, and then you just swap props.
Yeah, swap out the props. Yeah.
I don't
Trying to
know.
help you out, Ryan.
Hey, I still like our Christmas as it is. I don't have any plans to change it. I mean, adding little stuff here and there maybe, but I honestly don't. I don't personally. I don't want a yard full of coral for Christmas. That's just personal preference. But I think I could speak for both of us when we say we like the daytime appearance as well.
Yeah, I'm big on that too. My stuff's got to look good during the day as it does at night. What would you say is the most popular prop you have in you guys' display?
Go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead. I couldn't figure out one.
Well, I like them all, but I think ever since I found, it's not shown in this picture, but ever since I found my steel twiggy trees for out front for the tree line, they just, every time I pull up and see it, it gets me excited because I like the glow of the white trees with the white wires on them. There's just something about the way that looks is just, it's like front and center, with considered our singing trees. And then I probably would say I'm still partial to the star because I've got so many hours into building that and getting that on the roof that I think that's probably my second thing there. But I'd say my trees are probably my favorite or my biggest element in the show.
Nice.
Bethlehem Star is huge up there too. How big is it?
That is, I believe I made that. It's about 68 inches tall. And I thought it was going to be too big, but the problem of it, the deceiving part of it is that it's so high up and so far back on the roof that once I got it up there, I'm like, oh, it's pretty well proportioned after I got it. I cut the pattern out, and I set it up there, and I'm like, all right, I guess that looks pretty good. So before I drilled all 270 some odd holes in it to put the lights in. So
Wow.
that is that we brought that out. I built that in 2014, and I've used it every year since. And I just used 3/8 plywood, and of course I oil-based paint both sides of it, and then I actually put a plastic corner strip all the way around it in where the and basically on the edge of it to keep the water from running down between the plies. So I think that's really what saved it. I really need to take all the bulbs out of it in the next year here and give it another coat and put the bulbs back in. But that'll be if I have time later this year. So, but it's good. About I forget. I did the math on it. I think all them lights on at once is around 5 amps with all 3 channels on at the same time. And I adopted it from Richard Holdman, but he used C9s and I use C7s. I'm a little bit closer than he was off the road. So the C7s are 5 watts and the C9s are 7 watts. So for 200 and I think whatever it is, 220 bulbs or something like that, that's, that 2 watts less a piece added up is quite a bit more. So it worked out pretty good.
Definitely makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think another reason why I was kind of partial to the AC stuff is I stockpiled a lot of it my first couple of years. So I've still got cases and cases of lights still stored away in the barn full of stuff that I can use from years to come. So even when the stores go dark with AC stuff or incandescent stuff, I'll still have a lot of it. So.
You need any mini lights? I have everything my Lowe's had for 3 years after Christmas.
Well, send me your inventory list and we'll talk. But I don't know. We're probably one of the very few that's probably left in these groups that's still using in-can AC lights. But I don't know. I'm still partial to it for Christmas anyway. So.
Yeah, I only actually have one thing that has in-cans in it. And that is my runway lights for Santa. Everything else is either LEDs or pixels now.
Mm-hmm. the internal struggle that I have every year when I think about maybe retrofitting all my C7s to LED C7s is I can't have a mix. In my brain, I can't have a mix because of the dimming, the ramp up and ramp downs of the lights, that I don't want to mix LED and incandescent together. So throughout the yard. So if I make the change, it's going to have to be that whole year. I can't get myself around to do 20% of it this year and then 50% next year and 75 the next. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
just,
got to be all or none.
yeah, return on investment's just not there. It's going to cost me probably well over $2,000 just to retrofit everything from, even with staying with AC, just to switch it from in-can over to LED. So, and then I'm so particular, especially in the sequencing, that I'm going to have to go in and adjust every one of the sequences and skew it by whatever that ramp is.
We're talking lore world here now. We're not XLights. There's no master skew in XLights.
Brian
So-
just did a show on LOR sequencing, so he kind of knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, I got educated here 2 days ago with Audrey, so she was awesome. So she does a lot of the sequences. She used to work for LOR once upon a time doing sequences, and now she's out on her own doing it. So Aubrey, not Audrey, sorry. So with your, gotta get the names right. Your neighborhood, I don't know how close you are to your neighbors and stuff. What do they think of your show? Are they full bore on it with you? Want to help out, or have you had some issues with your neighbors? And how did you handle it?
So yeah, we're in a very tight-knit subdivision environment here in the neighborhood, and so far everybody's been very acceptant of it, but there has been a couple of neighbors that were complaining about people turning around in their driveway. So we're talking, 2 or 3 homes up the street, turn around, headlights in the living room, and come back and turn around. And not a huge thing, but I remedied that just by taking, a cone out every night, dumping it in the end of his driveway there, and that pretty much fixed that. But because we have so many people here and a lot of people park on the streets, a lot of the problem that I have is people parking right in front of the house, because parking is only allowed on our side of the street. So and there's really only room for parking on one side of the road. So when you have somebody pulled in going the other way on the other side of the road looking at the show, which is actually a better view of the show further away from it, you cause a bit of a traffic backup there. So there's been a little bit of frown on that, but no one's physically came to me and said, hey, Andy, I really having a problem with this. They've the neighborhood likes it. There's people on the site in the neighborhood that always, talk it up and say, when are the lights going to be on? And that's good to hear. So for the most part, we're good. I pick my battles with some of the neighbors, some of the things in the summertime that annoy me with them. And I keep my mouth shut, because the last thing I want them to come alive come December and become a problem. So for the most part,
That's a good way to do it.
yeah, a give take. So I pick my battles. So it's all good. So, but for the most part, we're in pretty good shape here. So.
Oh, we can't hear you. Can't hear you, JR.
It's because I was muted. Good job there. So if you could redo your display, what would you do differently?
Oh,
I don't know. I think if I had to do it again, I hate to say that I would go with. I would probably outline everything in Pixabobs, just because I like the looks of the. They're more traditional to me. Like all of my roof lines and my garland and all that stuff would be the C9 bulbs. I probably would redo everything with that, mostly because not only that I can change the colors, but I'd have less cabling, and it would still give me the traditional look that I'm going for. So I'd probably say I would go with that. I really don't know, because I think it would be, if I did do a switch to LEDs or to pixels, I would have to just do the whole thing. But I'm too invested in Can World right now, and I've got all of my power, basically all of my power regulated and balanced, so I know where everything plugs in, and I can still operate. I can still cook on the stove and run the dryer and the dishwasher when I need to. I still have power available. So as long as I don't overtax my service, I think I'm going to be okay. But
Yeah. The only problem with that is you're the only one that could plug everything in. Like, nobody can help you. That's the same problem I have with my display too. I have to do all the extension cords because I need to know exactly what's on what.
yeah,
Ryan, he was there.
yeah, I've got a whole spreadsheet that I've calculated down to every bulb. So I've left nothing to chance on it. So I know exactly how much load is on every one of my channels, and the bar controllers are in 2 banks. So I know that, they're 30 amp controllers, and you have two dangles, one for 15 each side, and I can divide that up accordingly. So if I balance that across my service, I'm fine, because my show, if everything was on, is just a touch over 200 amps if everything was on. So I have 150 amp service, but the way that I do it is because 150 amp service equates to a 300 amp service, theoretically 110. So I'm able to balance the 200 over the 2 legs, and I still have 50 amps aside available for use inside the house. So I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good there with a safety factor. So if I,
blink?
pardon me?
Does anything blink?
No. Oh, you know what? I take that back. There is a couple of sequences, Amazing Grace, before we made a change to it 2 years ago, that
the whole house flickered. Everything flickered.
You could
see it on the Christmas tree.
You could watch everything do just a light flicker in the house. I'm like, all right, we got a show inside too. Turn the music on in the house, and we got it in the house, the outside. So,
I've had that happen. One year, I had some AC lights running on a Mr. Christmas that was overpowered. That was plugged in to the same outlet that our Christmas tree in the house was. And every time the mega tree outside, which was ran on it, would go, our Christmas tree in the house would blink too. It was pretty fun. It was funny. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it's very rare that I have a lot just go on solid and off. It's everything is, a lot of it is slow fades and ramp up and ramp down, so you don't really notice it too much as far as anything bold happening in the house. Occasionally we have it where we'll turn everything off at one time and you notice the lights get brighter in the house, but for the most part, you don't really notice it. It's when we have like that Christmas party in the middle of December and people got to have every light on in the house and in the kitchen, and then when the show is on, you can actually see the lights flickering in the house. So, but
Wow.
yeah, it's not the DC show where you've got 2 15-amp circuits to run the whole show and you're done. So it's I've got about how many circuits do I have? I think I'm up to 13 or 14 dedicated circuits for just the show. I've got 2 portable sub panels, and then a handful of circuits that are hardwired in, because I didn't want anything to where if I go to sell the house down the road that I have to pull a whole bunch of stuff out because the inspector wonders, why do you need 17 exterior circuits on your house? So,
well, apparently you haven't seen my Christmas lights.
So let's throw that same question over to Ryan. If you were graduated high school, you're off to college or whatever, you get a house on your own, how would you start yours? Would you stick with LOR, or would you go straight into pixels and XLights?
Well, my thing is, I probably wouldn't go right to XLights. I'd probably go with the retrofit LEDs. Just buy those right off the bat, and not even worry about the incandescent. Not that I don't like the incandescent, but it's there you
Harder
go
to
with
find.
power consumption. That's my biggest thing, is even because obviously now I do all the programming for our show, so it's just you really got to limit what you do. Obviously, you can't turn all three colors on at the same time, or um, something wild could happen. But yeah, probably would just be it'd be the LED retrofits instead of the incandescent lights, and I like everything else for the most part. But yeah, that would be my house. It'd be that with LED lights instead.
Cool.
For Christmas, anyways. Holiday or
For
for
uh-huh.
a different story. We could go crazy on Halloween. So.
Well, Halloween you're allowed to go wild. It's unexpected. It's an there's no real word for it, but you can kind of go wild with Halloween. There's no real it's not really stuck around any topic.
Yeah, we feel with Halloween that there's a lot of the boundaries larger in my opinion. Christmas is special for me in a certain way. I like it to look a certain way, but for Halloween is one of those things where it can be
Crazy.
It could be morbid and gross, or it could be just evil. It could be everything in between. So and the colors and the music, you can get away with heavy metal or rock music, or just traditional Halloween music, whatever. But
So this question's for both of you. If you could go see 3 displays, what would be your top 3? Like, which ones would you go travel to see if you could?
Like around the country or
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
anywhere. Oh,
that's a tough one.
it really is. I don't know. I guess I never really thought about that.
Well, we know what's available in Michigan, and we've seen them pretty much all. So I don't
Think outside the box.
think outside the box. Well, I'd like to see Clyde's. I've seen it online. I've not seen it in person. How about you, Rye? Have you even thought about that?
That's why I'm really quiet over here. I don't know.
Well,
I'd
Richard
say
does have a drive-through in Utah.
yeah, that would be one I'd like to go see for sure. That would be cool.
I asked him last year. Facebook messaged him in the middle of the season, and I asked him. I said, "What would you think about doing a virtual drive-through, high definition video for the people that are out of state, and just charge $5 a viewing or something like that?" So he just sent me a video. He's like, "Okay, here you go. Here's the video of the whole thing I recorded in my VW." So I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, what an awesome guy. I mean, not only is like he was a great inspiration, but he's an awesome guy to boot. So yeah, he'd give
Richard is awesome. We actually
he.
need to get him on here.
I agree. He did he did a couple of podcasts a few years ago when he first started getting into the drive-through display and doing the setups out of state. Like he did, Peru and Argentina, and he did a lot of out of the country setup. And he explained the woes he had with trying to run 110 lights in a 220 world over in Europe, and how he had to, set up transformers and step up and step down transformers and whatnot. But anyways, yeah, that would be great to get him on here. That'd be awesome. But yeah, definitely like to go see his show for sure. I've noticed that I think there's been a couple more people get on board with the drive-through. I want to say that isn't there another besides Richard having a couple locations? Wasn't there somebody else that had another drive-through display this past year?
PPD does
Yeah, there's
a few drive-throughs in
They
Arizona.
did.
yeah,
Okay.
Lee has a big one, or is that a walkthrough?
That's a walkthrough. It's a
Walkthrough. Yeah, he's
Mhm.
got a big one down there.
Vinny's gonna have one this year,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nebraska. It's kind of,
Nebraska.
James had a drive-through in Louisiana for a few years. I know there's a big one in Ohio too.
Okay. Another one comes to mind I'd like to see would be High Country Lights. I'd like to see his venue. I've only seen it online.
Yeah, it looks
I
cool.
thought of one. Yeah, I'd like to go see Victor Johnson at Lighting Up Paxton down in Paxton, Illinois. He's got a really big. He's all like, well, I think he said he's like 99.9 AC or incandescent. Yeah,
I don't know if you guys,
not just because he shares the same technology, but just his creativity and what he does.
have you guys seen his site, or have you seen his display?
I have, because
Okay.
I've come from AC World, so I've been all over all those pages.
Yeah, he's got the same inspiration from Richard as we did. So
if you were going to give pointers to somebody who wanted to get into this hobby on the LOR side, what would you recommend?
I would recommend. I would almost recommend a mixture of AC LEDs and RGB elements in it. I think some of the bigger things, like bigger elements like the mega tree, maybe the house outline and stuff like that, do that in a pixel based, and then do some of the traditional trees or shrubs and stuff, and still in an in-can, not sorry, in-can, but a LED AC configuration. I'm still obviously partial to the AC. Everything in Lore is just so simple when it comes to um, their serial network. So it's been rock solid for my years. I haven't had any issues with the networking side of Lore. So I'd probably say to stick with a mixture between the RGB and the AC LED stuff. But I would definitely shy people away from the in cans only unless they're really good with on the electrician side of being able to balance and configure their sequences such that you don't overload yourself. So
What about for controllers and stuff? Because for me, I don't know anything about LOR. What LOR controller do you think is the best one to go for? Something like you have?
yeah, so my go-to would be the PC, basically the old Planet Christmas AC 16 channel 30 amp controller. Those are now up to a Gen 3. They've had a few revs on those firmware, but they're really good for LEDs now. They have the dimming curve is smooth on them. They can control the LEDs without having to put NCAN snubbers on them anymore. So I've picked up some of the older controllers for my NCAN stuff. That's okay, but if you're going to control anything with LED, you're going to want at least Gen 3 or later controllers. But the PC, the Planet Christmas 16 channel AC controllers was my go-to. Yeah, and then I think if I went into the RGB world with Lightorama, their dumb controllers were good for the floods. Those are really rock solid. I like those. But then if I got into the pixel world, that's where I'm going to go over the Falcon, because I've tried their high end PixCon, and it's very elaborate and it's very difficult to configure compared to the Falcon. So we're actually going to run a Falcon for the Megatree this year. Just going to run it E131 network. So, and then we're still going to use the LOR 485 for the rest of the network for the serial. So we'll have a mixture there. But I'd say for AC would be the 16 channel, and then the Falcon for the RGB out of the S5 platform.
Very cool. So you said you're working on some props. What is your next must-have prop? What are you working on now that's going to be new and improved or new to your show this year?
Well, a couple of them we're redoing what I've already got. My gutter line, my first floor gutter line, I used all individual light clips for each bulb, and I don't know if you can see it on the picture there, but I have an incandescent C7 every 4 inches on the gutter line, and every one of those has its own gutter clip on them that I have to put on every year. So what I'm doing is I'm putting them with S-hooks onto 3/4 conduit, so that I'll only have to hang it from each end, and then I'll hang the icicle lights on those too. So that's one of them. We're going to be doing my next big thing that we're going to be building is going to be we're going to do 2 singing trees that are either side of our singing reindeer that we currently have.
Again,
so
this picture does no justice. This is what I think this was 2017's picture. We just haven't got a good picture since.
Yeah, so that what you're looking at there is just a single color on every one of those elements. In between that, you have the opposite 2 colors that's not on right there. So everything that's green, you've got red and white in the background, and then vice versa. So there's a lot of lights there. So I'm going to try to make it a little easier. I did the roof line boards years ago in 15, and that has been a huge time saving. I don't have to deal with any shingle clips at all with that. They're basically, you lay them on the roof, and I use a couple little squeeze clamps, one at the top and one at the bottom, and plug them in, and they're done. So I want to do the same for the gutters, but I'm working on a pattern and somebody to cut me out the coro for the singing trees. So we've got that all figured out, and then Ryan's been working on the sequencing for those. So all of the songs that have a primary singer and backup vocals, those sequences will have those singing elements in them. Whereas the previous years, I only had your lead vocalist singing, so to speak, with the reindeer.
And I am using XLights to do the lyric tracks for the singing faces, just so you know.
Really? Oh, wow.
Well, no, because it's too hard to do 3 or 4 mouth movements and Lightorama. You have to do them. It's time consuming. People do them by hand, but I just don't have the time to do them by hand. It takes hours, even days, to finish them. So these I can knock out in a couple hours instead.
The 4 or 5 songs that I have, the Talking Reindeer, that I did back in 2015, the sequences looked fine in Lore when I programmed them with the mouth movements, but then after I got the prop and it was off to me. So I ended up going and setting the reindeer up in the kitchen with me while I was programming it, and tweaked all of the movements manual in the timeline till I got it exactly the way I wanted it. So when Ryan said, let's add singing trees, I about threw him out of the room. So I said, we're not going to do that in Lore again. So if you have a way to do it in XLights, we'll make the trees. So he's been able to do the lyric track and then bring the artwork over to Lore, and then it works just fine that way. So I think we're going to go that route and see if we can have a successful year with those props.
That's going to be cool. That's cool that you
Awesome.
could
Yep.
make something in XLights to make it easier for you, and then it will transfer over to your LOR without a problem. That's cool.
What's interesting is I've been watching Ryan. I'm not good myself with XLights. I've just, I don't program it. I've done a lot with Lore, so I just look over his shoulder when he's doing the XLights programming. But I have noticed with the S5, what he's been doing is that there's a lot of similarities, at least the thought process and the logic about programming has been applied to LOR for S5. So if you're familiar with XLights, there's a lot of commonality between the two now, so that you can, if someone was going between the two applications, it's not as bad of a learning curve as somebody that's going from XLights into like S3 and Lightorama. There'd be a huge learning curve there. Someone's never done it before.
Yeah, I had no idea you could do that either way. So one works with the other and vice versa. So that's awesome.
Yeah, the convert tab in XLights is probably the best tab I've used, at least. And that, I mean, it's kind of cool because it creates its own little layout, for itself for the sequence, and it seems to work just fine. I mean, I've noticed a little bit with like a lag, it makes it choppy a little bit, but you can Lightorama has an automatic smooth to fades effect that you can throw over everything, and it makes it smooth again. But yeah, it's been a great tool.
Cool. So I got the last real question before we get into fun stuff. Have you guys had any awkward interactions with neighbors or people watching your show? Has there any been like walk through it or just be really weird?
I think I wouldn't say there's been anything really weird happen. I think the biggest thing was the lack of just noticing that we're recording the show. So like we had another group of people that do a show real close to us that have a drone, and 2 years ago they came after Christmas to record the show, and my neighbors that live at the corner and actually park all of their vehicles up the street in front of our houses decides they wanted to pull up while I was recording and just get out of their car and come over and in the middle of it and say, "Oh, it looks like you're recording your show. That's nice." And then goes and walks into the house and didn't even offer a vehicle. So it was kind of like that was the awkwardness for me, because I was so taken back that she did not even process that she was already in the house before I was even going to say anything about it. So I don't know. I'd say that was probably the weirdest thing, but the way that the angle of the recording was such on the camera that you could see just a bit of the car in it. I was able to get it so that you weren't able to see the car on the street, but it was just the point that when I was recording, I was like, get out of the way,
All right.
I don't know.
think it's time for some fun questions here.
All right.
So we're going to do our rapid fire questions, which are just randomness, and you need to answer them as fast as possible. And since we got two of you, I'm going to ask a question first for Ryan. Brian's going to ask a question for Ryan, and then the next set of questions are for Andy, and then we'll go back and forth. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's the intro for it, and then we'll get into it.
The Pixel Pro Display Sequence Club is the only club that pays for itself. Here are just some of the benefits of becoming a member. Each month, you will receive a free, original sequence programmed by the pros at PPD to take your display to the next level. Access to weekly XLights effects presets, which you can use in your own sequences or modify to create your own unique effects library. Access to the PPD affiliate discount program, getting up to 15% off or more from over a dozen of our PPD partners. So visit us on the web today at pixelprodisplays.com and also find us on Facebook at Pixel Pro University. Pixel Pro Displays. What can Pixel Pro Displays do for you?
Hi, it's Blinky again, and now it's time for our fan favorite rapid fire questions.
So this is my go-to first question every episode. What color's your toothbrush?
Black.
Oh, fancy. I have a black one too.
I couldn't hardly hear you on that one.
What?
If you had a superpower, or if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
The ability to read minds.
Read minds. Ooh.
All right. So this is for Andy. If Apple made a car, would it have windows?
Yes, it would be the exception.
Be the exception. If peanut butter wasn't called peanut butter, what would it be called?
Smoothie awesomeness. I don't know.
That's like opposite of what we got last week.
Yeah. It's the exact opposite of what we got last week. Somebody didn't like peanut butter. It was weird.
Yeah.
All right. Back to Ryan. If you work security at Samsung, would you be the guardian of the galaxy?
Most definitely not.
If animals could talk, what animal do you think would be the rudest to talk to?
A goat.
A goat?
Probably.
That's really bad.
That was good. That was good. So, all right, Andy, if you could be have any superpower, what would it be?
The ability to create money.
Oh, that's a good one. Most people that do lighting go
Ooh,
with
that is a
flying
good.
to put up their
Well,
display, but the money would be good.
Yeah, you can buy anything you want.
You
Yeah,
could pay somebody to put up your display.
got it. Make
If
any
you were
profit.
arrested, oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
It's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. If you were arrested with no explanation whatsoever, what would your friends and family think that you had done?
Stole Christmas lights from the store after Christmas.
Yeah, that's a good
Totally
one.
see that one too.
Why are you going into Walmart? I'm going to see how much they have left after Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Ryan. If you put ice water on a hot dog, would it be a chili dog?
No, it'd be a wet dog, wouldn't it?
At a movie theater, which armrest is yours?
The one to your left.
Left side?
All right. So this question's for both of you. It's our last question. Are you ready for the last question, Brian? So we're
I'm
going to
ready
ask
for it
Ryan
away.
this question, and then we're going to ask Andy this question. Or Andy's just going to answer this one. But
All right.
if you could hang out with one of us, Brian or JR, which one would it be?
Both.
I got a 4-wheeler course out back, if that helps.
Yeah, true. He does.
Yeah, I'd go to Brian's house. Yeah, no offense.
I would too, actually. So I totally get that.
We gotta order more. We gotta order new 4-wheelers though.
There's
Well,
been a lot.
I'll bring
I
some.
can help more people have been spending time at Brian's house because his wore his 4-wheelers out.
Yeah. No, it's all this time his kids have at home right now.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Speaking
I'm
of that,
learning as much
have
as
they
they
have
are.
mandatory that your kids do the in-home learning now starting next week, or?
Oh, we've been doing it for 3 or 4 weeks now. We've been doing the in school. My son is in 2nd grade. He does a different type of program called IXL, and then I found a website where I can print off. It's like K5 or something like that. I can print off 2nd graders, anything from math to English, and then my daughter's in junior high, 7th grade, so she has more Zoom calls and Google Learning or something like that. pages that she does her work on and stuff. So it was kind of a challenge. I mean, I learned Common Core, and then I had to teach
I'm
that to my
sorry.
yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna teach this to you just so you can forget it and learn the right, or the other way to do it.
Yeah.
Lucky you don't have to have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old on Zoom calls with their preschool classes.
Oh God,
That is difficult.
I would go nuts. I mean, I thought it was bad with a 7 and 12, but I don't think I would be able to do it with my kids. If it was 5 years ago, I would lose my mind. I'd have a lot more gray going on.
Yeah, our youngest is into that right now too. But Ryan's official start back to school is Monday, so they've set the schedule yesterday out. So he's pretty unhappy about that. So,
Oh, he's going back to school?
I mean, we have to.
No,
back to
it's
school?
online school. No, it's online, but
Oh,
it's just
Oh.
they're now doing, half the day is your guided learning with your teachers, either through Zoom or video lecture, and then from like 8 to 12 in the morning is, your own time to finish work or whatever. But it still just sucks because there goes your day, for the week. But
You mean it's like you're back at school?
It's
spring
close to
break
it.
is over.
Lucky.
Hey, let me ask you this question real quick, because I absolutely love the look of any kind of lights with snow on them. You guys have snow? Because I'm so jealous, because in December it doesn't snow for crap for us over here. But you guys have snow like the entire month of December, don't you?
Pretty much.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
most part. It seems like every year is a little bit different. A lot of times, like this past season, we didn't have much in December. We didn't really get it till after Christmas. So the flip side of that is I'm not digging props out of the yard in the first week in January. So it was kind of a blessing this year not to have the snow. But normally, yeah, we normally do. I would say that picture there was probably taken maybe a week or a week and a half before Christmas that year. So it was nice. And
yeah, I love that look. Just love it.
Well,
one
our
of the
problem is setting it up because we'll usually get a snow end up like the week after November, and actually putting up the tree line this year, we actually had to shovel snow out of the way to put those up this year. But other than that, it's been pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah, we had like 2 feet of snow and then it melted and we didn't have much through little snow, little here and there in December, but then we didn't really get anything till into January. So it's different every year.
I guess it's good you got in cans, though.
Yep.
We
Snow around the light, you could see them all the time.
Yeah, we always joke with the people in our Michigan lighting group when we meet up at the minis. They're all like, "Well, we can't see our lights under the foot of snow we have on the roof." And I said, "You know what? I just do a little 5-minute all-on test with mine before the show starts, and
That's our burn-in test.
that's our yeah." So yeah, it's all good.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
So now you guys tell everybody with RGBs they got to put in heat tape so it can burn off all the snow, and then on all their lines, roof lines, and gutters and everything.
All those people that live in snow that have all those in cans in storage, just run some up next to your pixels and turn on before your show comes on. Melt the snow away, and then boom, there you go.
You got it. You got it.
Problem solved.
Well, thank you guys for being on
you
the show.
guys were awesome.
This was pretty fun.
Well, thank you for having us. I appreciate you letting some of us old school lore guys in on the questioning. So that's good. Appreciate it.
I know my head's about ready to explode this week. I'm just like,
yeah, Brian's learned too much about LOR this week.
Holy cow!
It was very nice meeting you, Andy. We have never been in a Zoom or anything with you.
So. Yeah, likewise. I appreciate it. Nice meeting you guys too. I overhear a lot of the stuff that goes on. Obviously, I have to, kind of be the chaperone, so to speak, in the background for him. But he handles himself well and enjoys what he does. and the lighting community has been awesome, and a great learning tool and source for everybody. And it's just a real good group of people that we've got all around the country. So
Yeah,
Well,
the lighting community.
it's awesome. Yeah,
So
it's awesome that you guys have the team that you do with, you and Ryan. So it's very commendable. I love that.
yeah, well, you could tell that to my wife, because she is just that Ryan and I have so much in common, and she doesn't. So
He'll pull the favorite card out at least once a month. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, jeez.
oh wow.
yeah.
So Ryan, did your dad know what you won?
Oh, for the last giveaway or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, I told him about it because the vendor I won from is actually only like an hour north of me.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, so it doesn't. I was even talking about meeting him halfway. I'm like, I'll just meet you halfway. Don't pay shipping. So.
Very nice. You guys
Cool.
gonna put it into Christmas, or is it gonna be for Halloween?
And it'll be for my singing face testing or whatever. I find downloadable singing faces are best on the P5 or P10 panels.
The effects and XLights look pretty good on it too.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
Very
we
nice.
we've used for a couple of years. I built a 2x3 P10 about 3 years ago, and we used that for a couple of years. And I kind of go back and forth between liking it and disliking it, because I've had some ghosting around the sides of it with the pixels and stuff, and I don't know. It looks good off the road, but up close you can see a lot of ghosting in it. And
Not
I'm
to
too.
mention burnt out pixels in it. That's the worst.
Well, now you got P5, so you're
Oh, there you go.
set up.
Resolution. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys again. This was awesome. Really appreciate it.
Thank you as well. Thank you for having us, and hope you guys have happy decorating this year and prop building.
Yeah, you too.
Thank
And
you as well.
thank you to everybody listening, and subscribe, please. I don't actually know why, please, but subscribe, because it makes it feel good that we have 250 people subscribing right now. So,
There you go.
all right.
Hit that
Thanks.
notification bell. Thanks.
All right, guys, take it easy. Thanks again. Bye
Have
bye.
a good one, Andy. Nice talking to you.
Likewise. All righty.
Bye, Ryan.